What's good, YouTube? We did get to 50 likes on our last Tenpai combo video, so here I am with the sample deck list. So for the sample deck list, we are playing 3 copies of Baidora, 3 copies of Zangdora, and 2 copies of Fedora. I think that these ratios are pretty standard. 2 copies of Fedora because while it being the only engine card that doesn't do anything by itself, having the second copy in your deck for when you are forced to go first is super important. Not every game ends on the first turn, especially if people are going to be teching certain cards in order to stop the OTK. The second Fedora does come up. Then for our other engine piece monster, we play 1 copy of Magnamut. So Magnamut is just broken in every dragon deck. Against light and dark decks, it's a hand trap. Most players have a light or dark monster in their deck somewhere, and then it also just searches you for Baidora and Zangdora in the end phase, which are just 1 card OTK pieces. Then we're playing 3 copies of Sengen Common with 3 copies of Sengen Bremen Manor. Just more OTK, more consistency with 3 copies of Prosperity. Like we showed in the combo video, this deck can OTK under Prosperity, so playing Prosperity in a combo deck like this isn't really counterintuitive. It's just more engine. Then for the best part of the deck, the non-engine, we're playing 3 copies of Droplets, 3 copies of Forbidden Chalice, and 3 copies of Impermanence. We just want every card possible to stop Lyrilisk. We want to stop the Lyrilisk Assembled Nightingale from stopping our OTK. That's very, very important in the Snake Eye matchup, which at the time of recording this video, we do not have a ban list yet, so Snake Eye is still the best deck, and they're playing Lyrilisk in order to counter this deck. So we are going to play all the cards possible in order to stop the Lyrilisk. And these cards are just generically good in the format. Effect Negation is just good in general, and the reason why we're deciding to play these cards instead of cards like Effect Veiler, Mourner, are because of the mirror match. I feel like when this deck comes out in the TCG, the non-engine that we play in our deck is going to be revolved around this deck, and this deck will shift the paradigm in the type of non-engine that we play in the main deck. I think cards like Effect Veiler, cards like Nibiru the Primal Being cannot be played in the main deck if this deck is a prevalent deck in the format, because you're just playing more cards in your deck that do absolutely nothing, and they're not stopping you from being OTK'd, and they're not even interacting well with this deck's board. So yeah, that's why we're playing these cards. 3 Ash Blossom is the most generic cantrap. It is pretty solid against this deck, hitting cards like Sengen Common, hitting cards like Baidora. You cannot hit Zangdora because Zangdora does trigger in the damage step, but you can also hit Manor. And speaking of hitting Manor, I think 3 copies of Ghost Ogre is pretty good going into next format. I think Ghost Ogre and Snort Rabbit has a lot of application against current decks, but really against the new decks that we're getting. Decks like Yubel have a lot of continuous and field spells that you can destroy with Ghost Ogre that have effects that aren't on their activation. And then Sengen Manor is the big one, which is an ignition effect in order to search. And hitting Sengen Manor then allows all of your other non-engine to work on the Tenpai cards because they no longer have the Misk-like protection. 1 Terraforming, again, more engine. Then for the rest of the non-engine in the main deck, we're playing 3 copies of Cosmic Cyclone, 2 copies of Lightning Storm and Duster. So you just want cards in order to simplify the game state to help push your 1-card OTKs through. In the mirror, they're gonna have, when you send them first, they're gonna have seals plus these type of cards set. You just want a card like Lightning Storm or Duster to clear out all their back row, so it's just you have to deal with the seal. Similar idea to Cosmic. Cosmic also has been seeing play as a card against pure Snake Eye, being able to hit IP in the spell and trap card zone, being able to hit the field spell. These cards are just solid in general, and I think they should be played in the main deck for the Tenpai deck. As for the extra deck, we play 1 copy of Baron de Fleur. Yes, this deck can summon Baron de Fleur in some setups, especially with the Magnamut plus the Zangdora. 1 copy of Odd Eyes Meteor Burst Dragon. This card is super important for the mirror. Cold waving monster effects during the battle phase. 1 copy of Moonlight and 1 copy of Black Rose. If you guys saw the DB Grinder video that he posted the other day, shout out to Austin, you would see that Black Rose Dragon is broken in this deck. It is a fire dragon, so you have some setups in the deck where you can Black Rose your opponent and they cannot respond to it because your Black Rose is unaffected by card effects with the field spell. Moonlight Dragon is a piece of removal which is important, especially against U-Bell, because these U-Bell players think that they're cheeky and they can just sit on a U-Bell and be like, oh, well, this can't die by battle and you're taking all the battle damage. Yeah, joke's on you. Summon Moonlight, bounce the U-Bell back to your hand. That's not flying. 2 copies of Sangan Rise Dragon. The second one is important, again, for when they send you first. You're going to use 1 on your first turn. And in some setups, you want to synchro climb before you go to the battle phase, and you are going to need that second Rise Dragon. 1 copy of Super Transcendent. If you're getting all the way to Super Transcendent, you're winning the game, so you don't need more. Same with Trident Dragon. If you're climbing to Trident Dragon, you have won the game. This is your finishing OTK piece. Then 1 copy of Ruddy Rose Dragon. This card is something that you don't have to play, but I've been testing it. It's something that you can make in the battle phase when you're synchro climbing. If for some reason you can't OTK, you can just clear both players' graveyards, and against a lot of decks, that could be enough to just win you the game immediately. That's it for the synchro monsters. Then for the link monsters, we're playing 2 copies of Heradic Seal. You never really summon this card unless you're going first, but it is a card that you can get away with playing 2 of, and it's your main end board piece whenever you go first. Then we're playing the Zelantis combo. Yes, this deck can do the Zelantis combo. It is a 3-card combo, but against this deck, some people are going to be siding cards like Dimensional Barrier, thinking that that's enough to make it so that you can't OTK them. Well, you can just use the Zelantis line and Raging Phoenix Zelantis them. That is an option and something that you can do with this deck. Then, as for the side deck, we just have like some sample cards of different things that you could side. I think the only thing that will be staple in this deck for the side is Heat Wave. This card is ridiculous. When your opponent sends you first, this card reads, at the start of the main phase, neither player can normal summon or special summon effect monsters into your next draw phase. So this card is broken. It basically just, your opponent can't, neither player can summon stuff into your next turn. So when your opponent sends you first, you activate this, and it's basically like you're going second, because you just pass, and then your opponent, it goes to there, they can't summon anything to protect themselves, and then you go back to your turn, you lightning storm their background, and then you just kill them. So this card is very ignorant, and it will definitely see play in this deck. Then it's just some more side deck ideas, like more Bestials, depending on the decks that are in the meta, decks like Voices, decks like Branded. Dimensional Shifter. Dimensional Shifter is a very good card in this deck. The issue with Dimensional Shifter, kind of like how Dimensional Shifter was in Kashtira, where there, during some points of Kashtira's life, there were arguments not to main deck Dimensional Shifter just because of the prevalence of Kashtira in the meta, just having another dead card in your deck. Is similar theory to this deck. If Tenpai is going to be so represented that you're expecting to play a lot of Tenpai at your event, then maybe you shouldn't main Dimensional Shifter, because Dimensional Shifter isn't a very good card when you're going second in the mirror match, because it's hard for you to OTK under seals, which Dimensional Shifter doesn't stop them to getting to seals. And it's especially hard to even OTK when you just Dimensional Shifter and they don't have seals. So Dimensional Shifter is a card you're probably playing in the side deck, if not the main deck, depending on the format. But for this sample deck list, we have it in the side deck. Then cards like Santa Claus / Kaijus. These are just the out. Fucho. Fucho is another option that people might play instead of the Lyrilisk. And this card says that it's unaffected by all other card effects. So you just summon it and it's just a stopper that you can't attack over it. It protects itself from battle and it's just unaffected by card effects, so it just sits there. So in order to stop people from doing that, you can decide whether you want to side Kaijus in addition to your effect negation, just in case they want to switch it up and not play Lyrilisk, expecting these cards, and want to play Fucho. You can side Kaijus and side all those cards in for when you go second post side in order to deal with whatever way they have to try to stop you. Then other cards that you can side are go first cards for when your opponent sends you first, like Rivalry and Gozen. All your cards are fire, all your cards are dragon. You can play these cards. Then cards like Dimensional Barrier and Threatening Roar. Yes, Threatening Roar. This is a tech that was first brought to my attention by my friend Lundrity. He was theorizing that this card, non-ironically, could potentially be playable. Not that it was 100% correct, but this card is definitely playable in the mirror match. There is no real play around for this card in the mirror match, and it's a card that is chainable, similar to Dimensional Barrier, where if your opponent does send you first and you end on your seals with set cards, and they go to Lightning Storm you to clear your back row to try to OTK through the seals, you want to have chainable cards that you can just flip and do some kind of floodgate effect, which in all intents and purposes, Threatening Roar is a floodgate against Tenpai. Because without their battle phase, they can't OTK, and all they're really doing in their extra deck has OTK tools and Seals Pass. So they're going Seals Pass, and you can probably kill them on the crackback. So that's just a sample deck profile. We will be having more Tenpai content in the future, but our next deck that we have to look at is Rika. That was done on our stream. So if you're not already following, go to our stream at twitch.tv/jib_YGO and make sure to follow and watch out for more streams. Because the next deck that we have to look at is Rika, which is the plant, reptile, insect deck. So that's going to take me some time in order to do more research on that deck. But I appreciate all the support. We've been growing rapidly, and I wanted to get out this deck profile. So thank you guys, and I greatly appreciate all the support. Have a great day. Peace.